Hi everyone, it's Caroline from the Writing Development Centre. Welcome to another round of You Ask the WDC, where we answer your study skills questions. And the question that you have for me today is, I didn't get the exam result I hoped for, how can I improve next time? So, this is never great, is it? However, before we get into what you can do to improve next time, I just want to talk to you about a couple of things that it's always best to try and avoid doing if you can. Number one, try and avoid internalising that result and letting it define you. By which I mean, try and avoid characterising yourself as someone who just doesn't do well in exams. Even if you've had a couple of results, a run of results that have disappointed you, try and avoid adding extra negativity on everything because it could permanently dent your confidence. It's much better, much more positive to define yourself as someone who's still developing their approach to exams. Number two, try and avoid the temptation not to look back. It's very natural when something hasn't gone to plan not to want to watch an action replay. However, it's often only in looking back and analysing what happened that we can actually learn from that experience, prevent things from going awry in the same way again, and learn from it and move on. So, to answer the question, how can I improve next time? I'm going to suggest that you model the technique of a tennis player who's just lost a match. Now, immediately after losing that match, they might sit in the locker room with a towel over the head for a little while, not wanting to talk to anyone and having a bit of a wallow and a sulk, and you're perfectly entitled to do that if you wish. But what that tennis player will do within a very short space of time is start looking back and reviewing and analysing their performance. Looking at the build-up, reviewing the performance in the match to look at how they can improve. And I'm going to suggest in this video that you follow a very similar approach to exams. Before you begin that in-depth analysis, have a think to identify whether there are any circumstances around that exam performance that can lead to it being dismissed as a one-off, an unfortunate event. If we bring our tennis player back into it, perhaps they lost that match because they were carrying a bit of a hamstring injury. That'll have healed by the time the next match rolls around. For you, maybe you had a rubbish night's sleep because someone in halls set the fire alarm off at 4 a.m, or you had really bad hay fever symptoms that day, so we're feeling a little bit fuzzy. If there are any such circumstances, however, do be careful about overplaying them to the extent that they become a bit of an excuse and they start masking the real reason why your performance wasn't as good as it could have been. It's always worth reviewing your exam performance, reviewing your revision strategies in any case to see if there's anything you can do to make them more effective. The first thing to reflect on when reviewing your approach to an exam is your expectations. What were you expecting from the exam going in, and how did it match up to the reality? For instance, perhaps you were expecting a straightforward test of memory and the exam required a deeper level of learning and understanding than you were prepared for. You don't often get in-depth feedback on exams as you do for coursework, but this is where you can use any feedback that you do get to reflect on your performance. The key questions to ask yourself here are, what did I learn about exams in my subject? And what does that imply about how I might alter my revision strategies and exam technique? And speaking of revision strategies, that's the next aspect to start looking at. How well did they serve you in the exam? Did you find that you were able to recall information well enough, or were you going blank? If you were able to recall information, did you feel that this was enough? Or that in future your revision needs to go a little bit deeper to help you develop a deeper understanding of your topic and enable you to analyse and evaluate concepts? Another thing to think about is how you organised and managed your revision. Did you start too late, for example, and end up cramming? Were your note-taking strategies effective, or did you find your revision notes lacking in some way? Perhaps you slipped into becoming the human photocopier at one point and ended up overwhelming yourself with information. So a bit of a skills audit is the name of the game here. Evaluate the revision strategies, including the note-taking strategies that you did use. Think about whether they worked for you or not. If they didn't, that's the time to start identifying strategies that might work better for you and begin experimenting with them. Then we have the exam itself, the big match. Are there any tweaks that you can make to your exam technique? For instance, if you ran out of time in the last exam, for this one, you might want to build in 5 minutes at the start to flick through the paper and do a calculation. How many questions are there? How much time might you allocate to each question? Remember as well to factor in some time to plan and check your answers. Lastly, it's worth acknowledging if exam nerves were a contributing factor. It's natural to be nervous in exams, but if you feel that those nerves were excessive or that exams exacerbate an existing underlying condition like anxiety, then you might want to talk through some strategies and techniques to help manage that with an appropriate professional, including staff from Student Wellbeing Services. Okay, so hopefully this video has given you some idea of at least where to start when it comes to thinking, how can I improve for the next exam? And it's given you an idea of the areas to start looking at to see where you can identify aspects to improve. Many thanks for watching. We'll be back soon to answer more of your study skills questions, and until then, take care.